Hi, how are you
Yes, Sing
doing?
Street. I'm good. I'm so excited by that poster back there.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think it's me and my roommate both like it, but I think that's from the Broadway or off Broadway
Off
production of it.
Broadway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be talking with you. I love the Mary Sue. Thank you for, speaking with me.
Yeah, of course, thank you. Obviously this episode is it's very important and it's coming out obviously at a time that's, horrible for the trans community, but seeing like this episode, I started crying. I had like was watching it on like my iPad and crying when it has the voiceover about like trans kids getting to like find their own joy in this world. And so for you as a performer and especially as a trans performer, how was it getting to be a part of this episode and this storyline in a show like Quantum Leap?
I mean, it was such a gift to be able to bring this story to life with the incredible team and support of the Quantum Leap Writers Room and the production team and the studio and the network. The level of emotional commitment to this episode, expressed by every single person working on it, is just incredible. Um, there was not one person who didn't go an extra mile to pull this episode off, because there were a lot of hurdles just in terms of approvals and sensitivities and timelines and casting and budget and COVID and so many things we had to attend to. And uh, everyone showed up because they believed in the important message of this particular episode. And so me as the creator, the writer,
Mm-hmm.
director, and co-star, I I just felt like lifted up on their support, and I got to just do my job, which is like so weird to say this, but as a trans person, this whole episode is like a put me in coach kind of episode. Let me show you what I can do, give me a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in my early 40s, and I feel like in a way this was the first time in my life where someone said, show me what you can do, kid, you know? And so I
Yeah.
got to do it.
When it's so like even like tying it in with Mason's storyline in the series because they're obviously a non-binary performer. We know
Yeah.
them from playing Desire, which was very awesome in general to be like, yes, Desire is a non-binary individual.
Yes.
But to see that tied into Mason's storyline within Quantum Leap and them kind of finding their own identity was really cool. And so as a writer and director and performer and juggling all of those hats while still making it such an important storyline for a character like Gia, who is a trans girl just trying to play basketball and be a normal kid.
Yeah.
How was that balance for you trying to make sure it's still Quantum Leap, you're still connecting with all those characters, but making it Gia's story?
It's actually something that I feel like particularly well suited for in a wild way, because like my gift, I think, as an artist is being able to take these iconic forms that have a lot of familiarity to them, whether that's an episode of Quantum Leap or a multicam sitcom or a great American play, and injecting it with like contemporary queerness and social issues, but making it accessible because we trust and feel safe in the structure. And so that's what the gift of Quantum Leap is that every episode we have a self-contained story with the beginning, middle, and end. It's a structure that people know. They go on the ride. They get, the audiences every week, get exposed to a different protagonist and a different community and a different point of view. And this was just the time to show them a trans kid and her family, So in terms of the mythology of Quantum Leap and the series regular cast and what's going on in the headquarters, that was the real fun. Was like, okay, now we've got our Ben story. The leap is taken care of. We know all the details of this 42-minute teen sports movie that we're telling with a trans kid, but then getting to figure out how to bring Ian deeper into the story, and how to bring myself into the story in the Quantum Leap headquarters was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I absolutely loved like all of the Quantum Leap headquarters stuff. I was just like, this is amazing. I loved all of the main storyline stuff mixed with Gia's storyline because when Ben is like, I don't know how to raise a kid, and he's told, yeah, well, neither does her actual dad. Like, you're well suited to
Yeah,
go
neither do
ahead and
most
figure
trans
this out.
parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was really kind of sweet to see like him struggling, but then realizing like if I don't step up, like people have to step up and protect this child because she is a child and they know her fate by the end of the episode. And so it was really kind of cool to see how it all played into like protecting her, especially like with the cold. It made me cry. But with such a show like this and like kind of the legacy on television of having trans stories be not fodder, but a lot of the time they've been just like, yep, we're putting this, like, I think of Nip Tuck all the time, but like putting a trans character in there for like parading them
Yeah,
around
the
versus
butt of a
actually
joke
giving a story.
or
Yeah.
the dead victim, or yeah,
Instead of an actual story. With this, it is her story, and you get to, it's just a joy getting to watch her kind of get to play basketball and be good at it, and everyone excited for her. Was that something you really kind of just you were aiming for with this? Was it having that joy in there? Because starts off
yeah,
as a sad story, but then becomes this joyful moment for everyone involved.
absolutely. Yeah, I said to the writers' room on the first day of breaking this story, I have two objectives, and that's to challenge the tropes of trans trauma and singularity. And I want to create an episode that's full of trans joy and trans community. And that's why seeing Gia at her group with these other trans kids, and seeing Gia with Trace Lissette, her counselor Kate,
Mhm.
and seeing Gia play basketball with her friends, it's like that is so important because we don't see it. And trans kids out in the world and the parents of those kids don't see it, and they don't know that it's possible. And we have to show the world that you can be a happy and joyful trans kid, and you can be a happy and joyful sports team with a trans kid on it. We make the world that we want to see in television, and so I hope that because of these things that make you cry and will hopefully make other people's cry, that folks will walk away from this episode feeling more inclined to show up for trans kids.
Yeah, 'cause one of my favorite parts of the whole episode is when she's obviously struggling in the game because she can see the people who are there who are like, this is for girls, not boys, and all of
Yeah,
the gross things that people say. And everyone just moves the sign to block them. So that they're
yeah,
like, nope, we're here for her. It was just like really sweet. So it was like, yeah, that is stuff that I live in New York. So it's like, I don't like, I
yeah,
couldn't do that. But I was like, if I lived in a small town, I'd be like, I want to be that person that has a sign that's like, you go away, I'm gonna block you off.
yeah.
But like having those little moments, which in the world of how we have it now is almost a wish fulfillment, sadly. Was your goal always to just inspire people to be those people who stand up for the trans community and trans kids and just be the support system that they need?
Yeah, it's funny that you said wish fulfillment, because Quantum Leap is all about wish fulfillment. And we talk about that in every episode. What is the wish fulfillment for our
Mhm.
audience? You want to go to space? We're going to put Ben in a spaceship. You want to rob a bank? We're going to do a bank robbery episode. Like, we're going to figure out how to create an experience that's fun and engaging for our audiences. And so, most people probably don't think, God, I really want to show up for trans kids today. But when you watch this episode, you get on board, and that really was my goal, because I know the legacy of Quantum Leap. I know that the original show in the 80s and 90s found ways to show the world what it was like to be in someone else's shoes and really dismantle a lot of ignorance at the time, so I wanted to continue that legacy. I wanted to make a quintessential Chef's Kiss Quantum Leap episode that just happened to be about a trans girl and her parents.
I was gonna bring that up because I used to watch Quantum Leap, not well. I mean, it aired. I was a kid, but it was still
Uh-huh.
airing, and then it
Yeah,
stopped. But I used to watch it with my brother, and like the summers, we would just sit and watch Quantum Leap marathons, and it does have that like, yeah, you're watching. At that time, it was a white man, but it's Scott Bakula, so we all love him very much. But it was Scott Bakula in someone else's shoes, like especially the character that Ernie Hudson is based on, like that character in the original series,
yeah,
just living through those experiences are so fascinating to kind of see. And so I'm glad that the show is keeping up with that and doing it with modern storylines like this one. Um, but it was 2012 that this is
yeah,
originally set.
yeah.
What was your thought process behind that? Was it just that it takes it out of the current conversation and keeps it just about Gia?
I mean, it's even more than that. It's that I think that most people don't know that this current conversation is not new. and that trans kids have been around for a long time. I mean, I came out in high school in the 90s, before I even had the language of transness, but I knew I was a genderqueer young person, and I fought for the right to be myself and express myself, and that was 30 years ago. So I think I wanted to establish the sense of historicity around the queer youth and trans youth movement, because in 2012, Jazz Jennings was trying to play basketball on her team, and now here we are 11 years later, and it's gotten so volatile and so fermented. And I just think it's important for people to realize that we could have stopped this a long time ago. We could have made better decisions way back when, and we'd be in a better place now. And that's what Quantum Leap is all about. And if we can sort of get that message from this episode, then maybe we'll make better decisions today.
Yeah. And I think it is an episode that just, if people are watching Quantum Leap and they have an open heart, it is going to, well, if they are people who need their views changed, change how they're kind of seeing trans youth and what trans youth needs. But it is like, for someone like me, I was just like, it is so, like, it's true. Like that whole sequence where all of the kids are just like, the voiceovers happening, I was just like, this is so true and sweet, but also making me cry, because I'm like, I want to just show this to people.
I mean, I
like,
was bawling.
what you're doing.
I was bawling while we shot it, and I was bawling when I watched the first cut, and I was bawling when I watched the final cut. Yeah. I want. I mean, as tacky as it sounds, I still believe that TV can change hearts and minds. I still believe that. I especially believe in the importance of network TV because it's so accessible. Because anyone with bunny ears can get this show. And so there's a special place that Quantum Leap occupies in I think the heart of the nation in terms of this kind of storytelling. And I'm really hoping that people who don't know how to feel, or who feel conflicted about trans kids, particularly with sports, that they watch this episode and that they do have that heart change.
Well, because you do have a character in it, because it's the one girl's mother is like just worried about protecting her daughter, and then when her daughter yells at her and is like, that's my teammate, like you're making it hard for her to like live for, so that I can. It's like you see her switch and she's like, look at that assist, like they're doing so great, and she like changes her thought process because she's just woken up to how she was feeling. And I was like, that's great. Hopefully someone watches it.
So great about the episode, I'm so glad you picked up on that, is that Ben and Margie are both trying to protect their daughters. And they're just parents who want their kids to be okay. And we can find the common ground there, and that's what I think the episode's really about.
Yeah. And it's so good. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I was like, oh, it's like, it's Quantum Leap. It's a show I know, show you can go into. And like, even if I've watched this season, but even if you hadn't, someone could just watch this episode and understand, yes, I get Quantum Leap. He jumps into this man's body and this is what he's doing. And so as sort of a last question, obviously this story was very important to you, and it works, and it is so great to see on TV. What are other stories, as someone who gets to work on Quantum Leap regularly, that you do want to get to tell with these characters?
Wow. I mean, we just started breaking season 2. So I'm really excited for some of the stuff that's on the board right now that audiences will get to see next year, or later this year, I guess, whenever that comes out. Two things I'll say to that. One is that I want more like trans and queer people everywhere in Quantum Leap and on every TV show, just woven into the fabric. So now we've done our like capital T trans episode, but we've already had trans people on Quantum Leap, and we'll continue to have trans people on Quantum Leap, and we'll continue to tell queer stories on Quantum Leap, and we'll continue to have a diverse range of experiences, coming from the writer's room and being represented on screen. That's a commitment that we have with this show. But in terms of like stories that I'd like to tell, I have a really multifaceted life story, and I've spent a lot of my life and career in the Broadway musical scene. I've spent a lot of my life and career, in Mexico doing like cross-border work, and in Los Angeles working in the like Chicano theater. So there are, and also the Jewish theater, and there's just lots of different worlds that I want to bring to the show, and I'm excited because we get to do it every episode, a new world. So
I would love to see Ben having to be a stage manager of just like any Broadway show. Just any Broadway show. Just he has Wicked. He's like then the fly doesn't happen. He's like, oh my God, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do.
I
There's a
have
no-fly show.
trust that I have pitched Ben Leaps into a Broadway show. So that trust that pitch has been pitched.
Great. I will be watching and I will just be like, yes, he did it. He's in a Broadway show. Thank you so much for talking with me. I can't wait for audiences to get to see the episode. And I
Thanks,
hope they
Rachel.
all cry like I did.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Of course, have a great one.
You too.